I've been teaching skills for resilience and well-being and concerned with issues around collective resilience and collective well-being as well as personal resilience and well-being for over 40 years now. It's not often that I come across something new that really adds something in a way that I become excited about. And this term, Thrutopian, I learnt from Rupert Read, who I met 20 years ago at a training with Joanna Macy. He coined this term, Thrutopian, and he's talking about really, well, I'm actually going to call him up to just introduce this term. And because one thing I'd really love you to get from this session is something about an understanding of story patterns that help us make it through when we're facing difficulty. Rupert Read is a philosopher and also a climate activist. Here's what he has to say.
We've got to have ways of thinking together, ways of co-imagining the future, which are not just dystopian, not just apocalyptic. So the idea I came up with, influenced by Ursula Le Guin, maybe we'll come back to her, is this idea of, as I put it, Thrutopia, and that's about how do we get through what is coming? Because some really, really tough stuff is going to be coming down the track at us. It's only going to get harder for quite a long time. How do we get through what is coming in the best possible way?
Thank you, Rupert. Rupert's referring to what some people have called the long emergency. What Bob Doppelt, who's written a lot about transformative resilience, has talked about the trauma scene, a period in history that's going to last generations of extremely difficult conditions related to the climate crisis. But who knows what else? The threat of artificial superintelligence, the idea that we may not make it through the next 10, 20 years. Who knows? I mean, some of these um, sense of larger threats that we face, they're becoming much more to the fore. And just out of interest, I'm going to ask you just to write in the chat window whether that sense of when you look into the future, that you feel your heart sink. When you look into the future, you have a sense of dread about what we're heading into. If any of that is ringing bells for you, just really invite you to write in the chat window. And that's what Rupert's talking about is can we have a way of thinking about and approaching the future where we don't just see it as one long downhill slope, where we lean into the story of what would it be like to make it through. And Joanna Macy, my dear friend, teacher, co-author of Active Hope, who died in July this year at the age of 96, we wrote Active Hope because we this sense of a need to think differently about hope, to see hope as something that we do, something that can happen through us, hope as a energy of inspiration that can happen through our choices, through our actions, hope as a guiding impulse that can happen through us. And in a way, this through-topian storyline and also active hope really kind of come well together. So this is part of what informs this, beginning to understand the through-topian story pattern. But also my background, I've worked in mental health for decades. I worked with people in addictions recovery. I've also worked with people struggling with stress at work. And I'm thinking this through-topian storyline, it rings true, it's practically useful on a personal level as well as the larger global challenges we face. And what a through-topian storyline is really about how do we make it through periods of challenge in the best possible way. Now, what I like about the way Rupert Read has framed that, make it through times of danger, times of challenge, times of difficulty in the best possible way, is it brings together two kinds of hope, really. One is hope for where we may end up, what we're going to make it through to. Will humanity, will our species make it through this century? Will we personally make it through a difficult day ahead of us? Will we, as a group or organization or team or family, make it through a period of difficulty? And you might think, well, these are so different. How can you have, the climate crisis and personal struggle, getting through a difficult day is so different to the survival of our species? How can you have them addressed in the same webinar and the same approach? And that's what I want to talk to. I want to talk to the idea of a story pattern that we can lean into in a way where it becomes a guiding structure for our lives and that we can use this in a very practical way.